What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel at Val's Evolution. Make sure you guys follow me on all my other social media handles. At Instagram, I do provide a lot of great content, but you can also support my brand at Makeup Evolution. If you would like me to help you build your business in the beauty industry, you can support me at Just Evolve Academy. All right, so on this channel, I am trying to provide you guys content that has to do with beauty and content that has to do with beauty business. So we are going to talk about vendors in your retailer. So this is something I feel like most clients that I work with don't anticipate. And when you're looking for vendors, you want to make sure that you're setting a budget for buy-ins, replenish, and units, okay? All that can really add up. Sometimes people think like, oh, if I just put $100 here, which you can start a brand like that, but if you want to have vendors in your retailer, they definitely have buy-in minimums and also minimum order, okay? So these are things that you have to consider, because it's not just, most of the times it's not just $100 and then you sell it and then you make $500 back and then you go spend your $500. That's not how it works. You have to make sure that you reinvest some of that money back into replenishment, as well as some into your bank account to pay yourself, and then possibly some to be able to market the product a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with minimum buy-in. So this is something that I already kind of have anticipated because I've worked for so many retailers that I was able to know what I was getting myself into. I first opened up Makeup Evolution, my biggest thing was I wanted to bring a type of luxury to the Inland Empire. Something where it's not too expensive, but it's also not like too cheap. You know, go ahead and start off with Smashbox. Smashbox is a brand that I carried at Makeup Evolution. I had the feeling that that one was probably going to be about my biggest buy-in. I want to say it was about 30 grand to buy in. Buy-ins, when you buy in, you're paying about 50% of retail costs, which retail cost is what you're gonna sell it for. The first round, I wanted to just purchase 3 because I wanted to make sure what items we're gonna sell. I didn't want to be sitting on a dozen or 2 dozens of products. I just don't see that being a right business move, okay? Also, you want to make sure that when you're buying into these brands, and especially if you want bigger brands like Smashbox, Philosophy, Patchology, Peter Thomas Roth, if you want brands like that, you have to anticipate that your buy-ins are going to be higher than just buying higher quantities and maybe just one product from another brand. That's a little bit of a lower buy-in. So you want to make sure that you're ready for those budgets, and that I always like to look at it like this is going to be money you're going to put out, and really go into it with intention that you're going to bring that money back in at least 2 times, and you're not going to spend the second half of that portion. You're going to reinvest that portion back into your product or into your store or into your business. Like, it's so important to have that like CFO mindset, because that is really going to help you in the long run. It's not, I had to really not go into it as like, I just spent 30 grand, I'm going to make the 30 grand back, and then, or I'm going to make 60 grand back and then I'm going to go spend it. That's not the way it works. For my business, we do have employees. So I had to anticipate some of that is going to have to go back to payroll. Some of it's going to have to go back to rent. But before I make those expenses, I need to make sure that money goes back into replenishment. Another brand that I knew was going to be a little bit higher of a buy-in was Frankie Rose. That was definitely a higher buy-in, and I also had to pay for the unit that the brand comes in. So I really respect authorized retailers, because authorized retailers go through the actual like grooves of applying and making sure that, you know, they're in the right terms and conditions for the brand. They're actually going to represent the brand the way the brand wants to be represented. That they have a lot of rules and regulations in order to become an authorized retailer. And the reason that is because they want to make sure whoever's representing their brand is representing their brand like they want it to be represented. So I have a brand and I know how that feels. I definitely want to make sure that people are representing Makeup Evolution how Makeup Evolution should be represented. Especially when you put your blood, sweat, and tears in building a brand. You want to make sure your brand is being put out into the world by people who respect the brand, not people who, you know, don't respect the brand. So even when it comes down to PR, this is something to consider. People who are representing your brands in your PR category, you want to make sure that they're representing your brand how you would represent your brand. So that's something that I really respect with big national chain brands, is that they have this like whole application process where you have to be approved. The building has to look representable. The inside of the building has to look representable. The brands that you carry have to be representable. Especially for something that's a higher caliber of a brand like Smashbox, like Frankie Rose. The thing that you can do is when you're setting kind of like your outline or your agenda for bringing in vendors, really ask yourself, is this a vendor that you want to represent too? I think a relationship really goes both ways. Like, does the brand fall into all the categories and all the core values that you have for your brand? And if it does, then it'll be a good relationship. But if it's something that maybe doesn't fall into your core values, like let's say it's a brand that maybe, I don't know, that maybe doesn't have enough color range in it, then why would you, if you're very big about diversity, why would you carry that brand in your store? So these are things that you should consider. Some brands, and this is usually more in like the well-established brands, they do offer net 30s or net 60s. I know like Rodial is a great luxury brand that we carried, and I'm a big fan of the brand. I'm a very high value type of person. It has to have enough value for me to want to represent it, and Rodial is definitely one of those. Not only did I work for the brand for so long, but they really have a huge place in my heart because the way the brand's work ethic is and their best practices in the company. I feel like they just have such a good morale, and the brand just projects that. So they're one of the brands that, you know, offer net 30 or net 60. And pretty much that means from the day you receive the items, you have 30 days to either pay if it's net 30, or net 60, you have 60 days to pay back what you ordered from the brand. Now, you do have to qualify to be able to do net 30 or net 60. You have to build some type of credibility, whether it's your business credit or your credit or just credibility with the brand before you go on net 30 or net 60. So these are some things to look forward to if you're still young in a business and maybe you haven't built or established business credit. Then these are things to just kind of look forward to, but keep really close in your view. That way that can be an option for you. And going back to the beginning, how I mentioned, like most brands will offer like 50% cost for a buyer, which would be you as the store. So you can purchase these products at 50%, some do 60%, some do 40%, but I would say at least 90% of the vendors that I've worked with do 50%. And this is something you should really do the numbers on. Is it worth only making 50% back? So we carried a lot of lash brands in our store, and after watching the trends and seeing, you know, this is what a business owner needs to do. You can't just throw something in the store and expect it to sell on its own. You have to constantly be dissecting your business to make sure that it's producing, because if not, you're gonna sit on product. There's gonna be product that won't move. And lashes were actually the top selling item in our stores. So, or still are. Actually, we're only selling lashes now. So this is something that we've recently done because we've noticed that our profit margin on lashes was way more effective than buying into brands constantly. Though we realized, okay, if all these brands, like these different lash brands, are doing amazing, we're buying in at 50%, then that's a great sign that it's time for us to start saving that money that's coming back, that put it into our own lash brand, and we can buy our own lashes at an eighth or a quarter of the cost. So that way now we're making threefold on the lashes, or we're making sevenfold on the lashes. Depends what vendors you go to or where you get your lashes from, and your MOQ, how many are you purchasing of each. And that all goes back to monitoring your business, dissecting your business, and watching the numbers daily. A lot of people say they don't like to micromanage, but I think when you're a small business, you should be micromanaging what's going into your business, what's going out of your business, who's working for your business, who's producing for your business, who's not producing for your business, who's milking the clock, who's not milking the clock. Are you spending too much on social media and it's not driving you traffic? I think it's very important to monitor those things at a microscope. Like, that is something where you want to just have a micro vision to it, because you want to make sure that you're like really nailing down what's not bringing purpose to your business and what is bringing purpose to your business. We set it up was, okay, we know that Frankie, Smashbox, people know Smashbox. What's another one? Cinema Secrets, people know Cinema Secrets. So we knew that as a new business, people who are already fans of these brands are going to now be introduced to Makeup Evolution. So I thought that was the best strategic way to bring in people to the store, and that would bring an opportunity for us to introduce them to other brands, smaller brands, indie brands, brands that have our heart as artists. Like, we're a very artist driven type of company, and there's a lot of artistry brands out there that didn't get much love, but it was a great way to use these anchor brands, we call them, to really bring us and like make us solid, because we have the credibility to be approved by someone like Smashbox. So we would get that quality traffic that's like, oh damn, if Smashbox trusts them to sell their product, then I'm going to shop at this place. You know, I think it made it so much easier for us to introduce our lash line, and now our lash line is on its own. Like, it's its own brand, which is a very, very cool thing. So some of these brands, not only do they have a minimum buy-in where you have to purchase so many, like $5,000 to buy in, or $10,000 to buy in, or $1,000 to buy in, or $30,000 to buy in. Actual terms and conditions where every time you replenish product, your replenishment has to be a minimum order of $500, or a minimum order of $1,000, or a minimum order of $2,000. And in some cases, if I was only selling one shade of foundation, it made no sense for me. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to dig deep, and you have to look at everything on a microscope. So can you keep up with those minimum orders? Some brands even have like a contract where you have to be purchasing from them consecutively for 6 months. If you don't purchase within 6 months, then you'll have to re-buy in. And there's also like penalties for some brands. So these are just things that to really look at and pay attention to. There is a study that shows that 90% of businesses fail within the first 2 years. So this is something to make sure that you consider, because you don't want to fail because you're sitting on 24 of a product that you never sold, you know? So just really ask yourself, can I do it? And if you feel like you can, I would even recommend to write down what your plan of action is, how you're gonna sell this. This brings me to like Danissa Merrick's. Danissa Merrick's is a brand that we also carried in store, and my application was not getting approved. I tracked her down at a makeup show, and I was like, you don't understand. I love your brand. I pitched to her, I love your brand. I know I can sell your brand in my store. I know we can kick butt. And this is my plan of action. And I pitched to her like what our plan of action was going to be to sell the brand. And then we brought the brand in, and we always had that plan of action of how we're going to sell this product, what we're going to do to move it. If a certain item doesn't get love, okay, let's all wear this item and let's all push this item. Let's learn to love this item so we can teach our customers to love this item. To like dissect, make sure you can do it. If you feel like you can't do it, if it's a maybe, then it's a no. So even if you're like, okay, you know what, maybe I'll bring in a brand to drive traffic, and then I'll start my brand too, and then when that traffic is there, you can show them your brand. That's a great way to start as well. I just felt like we really had to build our credibility in the community before we actually did our own brand, and now we are focused on just our own brand, which I feel like was such a great move. And we're also online now, where it gives us more exposure to be more global, and we're not just in one place. And it also gives me so much more flexibility to be be with my family. We appreciate it. I've gone on and on this video, but if you guys do have any questions, let me know in the comments below.